The Galactic Empire had ruled unchallenged for millennia. Their dominion stretched across thousands of star systems, their power unassailable. They were enforced with brutal efficiency. They were a species who conquered not for necessity but for preservation of their own status, driven by arrogance refined over countless generations. Diplomacy to them was not a negotiation, but a statement of inevitable submission. Their arrival in the star system was always followed by a demand: surrender or be erased. No species had ever resisted successfully. Their threats were not hollow. They were promises, fulfilled with precision and indifference. The Empire believed themselves untouchable, absolute, the pinnacle of civilization, until they met humanity. The Empire first encountered humans through long-range probes that captured Earth's electromagnetic signals, a cacophony of music, language, and strangely violent visual records that chronicle wars spanning centuries. The analysts of the Empire dismissed humanity as yet another aggressive, primitive race barely venturing beyond their own solar system. Earth's classification as a death world made the humans appear dangerous on paper, but the Empire had faced death world species before. In every case, overwhelming force had secured their compliance. Humanity's technological progress was noted, but was assessed as insufficient to pose any real threat. Their war records, though numerous, were seen as evidence of disorganization and internal division. The Empire concluded that humanity would either submit upon demand or collapse under the first wave of pressure. Confident in their judgment, they proceeded to send the standard imperial ultimatum. The Empire's High Chancellor selected a delegation of prominent diplomats from their most respected species to deliver the message. These were not mere messengers. They were symbols of imperial authority, their presence a calculated gesture of dominance. They arrived in Earth orbit aboard a flagship, transmitting the ultimatum to Earth's global communication networks. The message was simple: surrender, pay annual tribute, disarm significant portions of your military, and accept Empire-sanctioned governors to oversee integration into the galactic system. Failure to comply would result in total annihilation. The Empire expected fear, desperation, frantic negotiations for mercy. They received something entirely different. Earth's Unified Leadership Council convened immediately. Contrary to the Empire's expectations, Earth's nations had long since achieved a fragile but effective global unity in response to centuries of internal conflict and external threats. The threat of an alien power demanding their submission did not fracture them. It solidified their resolve. Humanity did not respond with pleading or hesitation. They analyzed the Empire's message, the delivery, the choice of diplomats, and the long history of the Empire's interactions with other species. Patterns emerged. The Empire always struck first with psychological warfare. They relied on fear to soften their targets. They expected submission to follow the initial display of force. Earth's leaders realized that to resist successfully, they would need to deliver a psychological blow more devastating than any weapon. The Council's response was not impulsive. They assembled teams of military strategists, cultural psychologists, and intelligence experts to craft a reply that would shatter the Empire's expectations. The conclusion was unanimous. A typical military response would be futile at this stage. What was needed was a message so violent, so unthinkable, that it would ripple through the very foundations of the Empire's diplomatic structure. The Empire's power relied on tradition, symbols, and protocol. Breaking those protocols would strike at the heart of their psychological warfare doctrine. When the Empire's diplomats arrived for their formal audience on Earth, the humans did not engage in lengthy negotiations. The meeting was brief. Without fanfare, without delay, Earth security forces executed the entire diplomatic delegation. The act was precise and absolute. No survivors were left to report nuance or offer alternative interpretations. The humans carefully preserved the heads of the alien diplomats, packaged them in containment units designed to maintain biological integrity, and sent them back to the Empire's nearest outpost with a short message: Earth does not kneel. The Empire's initial reaction was disbelief. No species had ever dared to violate the sacrosanct rules of diplomatic immunity. Such an act was considered beyond barbaric. It was political suicide. The Empire's communications relays fell silent for several days, their high command paralyzed. unsure whether this was some grotesque misunderstanding or an intentional declaration of defiance. When confirmation arrived that the incident had indeed occurred as reported, the High Chancellor's fury ignited the entire Imperial war machine. Orders were issued to mobilize several fleet groups with the express objective of erasing Earth from existence. A new category was created in their war logs: total eradication without option for surrender. The Empire's analysts struggled to comprehend the human response. Their models had predicted either submission or prolonged resistance, followed by inevitable capitulation. Now, they faced an opponent whose first move had obliterated the very foundations of diplomatic engagement. The humans had not simply rejected the Empire's offer. They had annihilated it with surgical brutality. There was no precedence for such an act, and the Empire's command structure, long relying on rigid protocol, began to fracture under the weight of uncertainty. As the Empire's fleets moved into position, human intelligence agencies intercepted communications and identified key weaknesses in the Empire's logistical chains. They began assembling a comprehensive profile of Imperial fleet movements, supply lines, and command hierarchies. Human strategists worked tirelessly to devise countermeasures that would exploit the Empire's arrogance and predictable tactics. Earth's leaders understood that conventional warfare would not suffice. The Empire's fleets outmatched Earth's forces in sheer size and technological scale. Victory would require a campaign of psychological disintegration and asymmetric attacks designed to erode the Empire's will to fight. The initial human response was not to fortify planetary defenses, but to weaponize information. Human operatives began distributing falsified but believable intelligence across the Empire's networks, creating the illusion that Earth possessed weapons capable of catastrophic damage on a galactic scale. These rumors spread rapidly among the Empire's vassal species, many of whom harbored quiet resentment toward their overlords. Stories circulated of the humans' willingness to obliterate diplomatic traditions, of their capacity for brutality unmatched by any other species. Fear began to take root, not among the Empire's leadership alone, but across its entire chain of command. The Empire accelerated its mobilization, but cracks were already forming. Some supply convoys reported sabotage by unknown actors. Entire fleets encountered unexpected delays due to resource shortages, mysterious system failures, and growing dissent among auxiliary forces. The Empire's grip, once absolute, began to tremble under the weight of uncertainty. They had expected Earth to beg for survival. Instead, they faced a species that met threats with calculated. The Empire's response to Earth's defiance was immediate and total. Massive fleets were diverted toward the Sol system, their commanders instructed to exterminate the human species without offering surrender. The destruction of Earth was to serve as an example to any species that might question the Empire's authority. Mobilization orders reached every level of the Imperial hierarchy, but in their haste to annihilate, the Empire ignored critical vulnerabilities in their own infrastructure. The humans had already mapped supply lines, fleet deployments, and communication channels. Human cyber operatives were deep within the Empire's networks, silently harvesting data, manipulating command signals, and spreading targeted disinformation. The Empire had yet to understand they were no longer facing a simple ground war. They were already losing the information war. The first Imperial fleet dispatched toward Earth never arrived. Human cyber units had infiltrated the navigation systems of the fleet's lead carriers, causing critical miscalculations in their jump coordinates. Ships emerged into the gravity wells of uncharted stellar anomalies and were destroyed instantly. The Empire classified the incident as sabotage, but underestimated the scale of human infiltration. They failed to realize that their command and control systems were compromised across multiple sectors. Human forces, despite being technologically outmatched, executed a campaign of preemptive strikes that shocked the Empire's admirals. Human stealth craft targeted supply depots, disabled forward outposts, and planted false evidence implicating rival Imperial factions. Earth's forces weaponized every weakness in the Empire's vast bureaucracy. Logistics collapsed in critical sectors as transport vessels vanished or found themselves ambushed at their most vulnerable points. Human operatives within the Imperial network ensured that recovery efforts were misdirected, further compounding confusion. When the Empire finally succeeded in assembling a secondary invasion force, they encountered defense strategy unlike anything in recorded history. Human forces refused to engage in conventional fleet battles. Instead, they fragmented their defense into rapid strike cells that would materialize, attack, and disappear before the Imperial fleets could mount a counteroffensive. Human ships utilized unpredictable maneuvers and decoy systems that drew Imperial vessels into kill zones, where mines and automated weapons platforms delivered devastating damage. The Empire's reliance on traditional fleet formations and their failure to adapt to human guerrilla tactics resulted in catastrophic losses. The humans did not fight to hold territory. They fought to bleed the Empire. Every skirmish, every lost ship was broadcast across galactic communication channels, amplifying the myth of human ferocity and tactical genius. Human intelligence units continued spreading rumors of Earth's supposed superweapons, creating an atmosphere of paranoia among Imperial forces. Imperial commanders began requesting additional escorts and backup fleets for even routine missions, overextending the Empire's logistical capacity. The Empire's vassal species observed the unfolding chaos with growing interest. Some, emboldened by the human success, began to resist Imperial commands, delaying the shipment of supplies or feigning communication failures. Others covertly contacted human diplomats, offering intelligence in exchange for promises of future protection. The humans accepted these alliances strategically, using the new flow of information to disrupt Imperial coordination further. Human cyber warfare units executed precision strikes against the Empire's financial systems, collapsing regional trade hubs and destabilizing the currency exchange protocols that held the Imperial economy together. Panic spread as entire markets vanished overnight. The Empire's internal stability eroded rapidly. Rumors of human-controlled mercenary fleets spread throughout the outer systems, causing garrisons to withdraw resources from the front lines to defend their home sectors. The humans exploited these movements, launching strikes against now vulnerable supply routes and command posts. In desperation, the Empire ordered an all-out assault against Earth, deploying one of the most experienced admirals to lead a reinforced fleet. The humans, anticipating this response, manipulated communication signals to broadcast false vulnerabilities near the asteroid belt. The Imperial fleet fell into the trap, suffering heavy casualties as concealed human railgun platforms and kinetic kill vehicles tore through their formations. Human ships, using unconventional propulsion bursts, evaded pursuit, striking with speed and unpredictability. Human adaptability became the Empire's most significant problem. The Empire's commanders, trained to execute established doctrines, struggled to counter human strategies that evolved in real time. Human ground forces, when engaged, proved equally elusive. They utilized hit-and-run tactics, environmental manipulation, and biological weapons tailored to exploit alien physiologies. Imperial soldiers reported entire units wiped out by pathogens that the humans appeared immune to, fueling rumors that Earth itself was a weapon. The Empire's military command began to fracture under the weight of continuous failure. Fleet admirals accused each other of incompetence and sabotage, while vassal species withdrew their limited support. Human operatives fed these divisions, forging communications that deepened mistrust between Imperial factions. Infiltrated messaging systems delivered falsified orders, causing fleet commanders to misposition their forces and abandon critical defensive positions. Human leadership, leveraging their Death World psychology, remained focused on psychological dominance over territorial control. They orchestrated the public destruction of key Imperial outposts in carefully timed operations that maximized the broadcast impact across galactic channels. Human strike teams, composed of special operations units trained in zero-gravity combat and sabotage, dismantled high-profile Imperial facilities with surgical precision. The destruction of a central Imperial intelligence archive, achieved without warning, became a symbol of human audacity and capability. As the Empire scrambled to maintain order, human diplomatic channels reopened, not with surrender, but with demands. Earth's representatives transmitted a message across the Imperial networks. The Empire's dominance was over, and any further aggression would be met with escalations that the Empire could no longer contain. Human diplomats offered terms not of submission, but of recognition, proposing that the Empire withdraw from contested territories and acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and the independence of former vassal species. The Empire's leadership rejected these demands publicly, but internally, they faced mounting pressure. Subjugated species began open revolts, emboldened by human victories. Entire sectors declared secession, some aligning themselves with Earth's growing coalition. Human intelligence operations ensured that these rebellions were well coordinated, supplying them with weapons, tactical advisors, and critical information on imperial vulnerabilities. The Empire, once the unchallenged hegemon, now found itself besieged on multiple fronts. Their resources, once inexhaustible, were stretched beyond their breaking point.